Rome, the eternal city, a civilization of gods, of emperors, of legions that once ruled the known world. We think of its grandeur, its opulence, its might, its history of monumental triumphs, victories, and dazzling wealth. Yet as we look past the grand buildings, the polished statues, and the names etched in stone, what do we truly know about this legendary empire? What lies beneath the gilded surface? For every great emperor like Caesar, for every legendary general like Augustus, there were countless others, unknown, forgotten, their lives buried in the dust of time. Behind every victory, behind every triumph, there is a shadow, a story erased by the passage of centuries, a story lost and waiting to be found. This is the Rome that history tried to bury, the Rome that still whispers to us if we know where to listen. Hidden empires beyond the Caesars. Before Rome ruled the world, it learned how to rule. Before Rome became the empire of legends, it was shaped by others. And before the Roman Empire stood as the dominant power of the ancient world, it was deeply influenced by civilizations that were just as powerful, if not more mysterious. The Etruscans, whose cities flourished across central Italy, left an indelible mark on Roman culture. But their presence in history is one of the greatest enigmas of the ancient world. The Etruscans were the first to construct cities with grand architecture, intricate temples, and elaborate public spaces. Their craftsmanship in metalwork, pottery, and stone carvings was unmatched. They were the ones who introduced the Romans to the alphabet, the very system of writing that would later be used to preserve the histories of great empires. The Etruscan language, still largely undeciphered, continues to be a mystery to this day, leaving behind only fragmented words and incomplete phrases. Their religion, their customs, even their political structure laid the groundwork for what would become Roman imperial society. The fasces, that bundle of rods with an axe carried by Roman officials, was derived directly from Etruscan imagery, symbolizing the power of the state. Even the concept of Roman kings, before the Republic was born, was rooted in Etruscan governance. Yet despite this undeniable influence, the Etruscans vanished. How could such a powerful civilization simply disappear? Some historians argue that the Etruscans were not defeated by the Romans, but rather absorbed into them, swallowed whole by the insatiable hunger of Rome's expansion. Others believe that Rome systematically erased them, rewriting history to suit its own narrative. It's possible that the Etruscans were erased from the historical record, their cities left to crumble, their contributions obscured. Their graves, filled with treasures and secrets, were looted and forgotten. Rome did not just conquer its enemies, it reformed them. The very essence of Roman power was built on the idea of assimilation, taking the best aspects of other cultures, incorporating them into Roman identity, and then claiming those innovations as their own. The Etruscans, like many others, became part of the Roman story, but their true legacy remains hidden, submerged in the shadows of time. Voices of the lost, the untold stories of everyday Romans. When we think of Rome, we envision the towering figures of emperors and generals whose names echo through history. Julius Caesar, Augustus, Nero. We remember the grand spectacles of the Colosseum, the architectural marvels of the Pantheon, the philosophical writings of Cicero and Seneca. But what about the people who made all of this possible? The everyday Romans, the ones who toiled in the shadows, whose stories were not recorded in the annals of history? Imagine the bakers who fed Rome's citizens, the masons who carved out the stones for its grand structures, the farmers who worked the land to sustain the empire, the slaves, hundreds of thousands of them, whose labor built the roads, the aqueducts, and the homes that made Rome the engine of the ancient world. Yet their stories were erased, buried beneath the weight of history's grand narrative. We hear their voices not through grand speeches, but in the fragments of everyday life. The graffiti on the walls of Pompeii, scratched in haste by young lovers or disgruntled soldiers. "I screwed the barmaid," one reads. "Successus loves Iris," says another. Simple words, crude at times, but they reflect the humanity of those who lived in the shadows of the empire. But these were not the voices of emperors. They were the voices of ordinary people, speaking across time, from a time when they were silenced. Then there is Claudia Severa, one of the few women whose words have survived the centuries. A simple letter written to a friend reflects a tenderness that history often overlooks. "I shall expect you, sister. Farewell, sister, my dearest soul," she wrote. These are the words of a woman whose life was as ordinary as any Roman woman's, but whose voice has endured, telling us more about the daily lives of Romans than the battles of Caesar ever could. In the streets of Rome, children died young, victims of disease, of hunger, or of the indifferent cruelty of life in the ancient world. One such child, named Julia, had a gravestone that read simply, "To Julia, who lived 6 years." She left behind a world of laughter that was cut short. We may never know her full story, but through her grave, we can hear the faint echoes of her life, a story forgotten by all but the stone. These are the lives that history passed over. The workers, the slaves, the mothers, the children, all of them made Rome what it was. Without them, there would have been no empire. Their stories were not recorded, but their existence is still felt in the cracks of the stone, in the graffiti, in the ruins, in the shadows. Roman innovations, the lasting legacy. They didn't just conquer the world, they reimagined how it worked. The Romans didn't just conquer the world, they changed the very nature of the world itself. They did not just fight wars, they reimagined how to live. From the construction of cities to the development of a legal system, Rome's innovations became the bedrock of the modern world. The Roman aqueducts were among the most advanced pieces of engineering the world had ever seen. These feats of architecture, sometimes stretching for hundreds of miles, brought water into cities, supplying public baths, fountains, and homes. Their construction required precision, calculation, and knowledge of hydrodynamics, skills that would not be replicated for centuries. Roman public baths were the heart of social life, but they were more than just places to cleanse the body. They were places of intellectual exchange, where politicians and philosophers mingled with soldiers, slaves, and children. These baths, open to all citizens regardless of wealth, were a testament to Roman innovation in architecture, but also in social welfare. In a world where wealth and privilege often dictated who had access to resources, the Roman baths were a symbol of civic inclusion. Even their sewer systems were a marvel of sanitation. The Cloaca Maxima, the main sewer system of Rome, was so advanced that it's still used today. It carried waste away from the city, keeping it clean and habitable, a fundamental factor in sustaining a population that reached over 1 million at its height. Then there is Roman law, perhaps their most enduring legacy. From the 12 tables to the legal codes that followed, Roman law laid the foundation for modern legal systems. It is here, in the streets of Rome, that the concept of innocent until proven guilty first emerged. The idea that the accused have the right to a fair trial, that evidence must be presented, that justice is blind to wealth and status, these principles were all born in ancient Rome. These innovations didn't just make Rome strong, they transformed the way the world would function for millennia. In their pursuit of greatness, the Romans inadvertently planted the seeds of a new world, one that we continue to shape today. The future of ancient Rome, unraveling the mysteries. Rome's shadows stretch across the future. As the world changes, as new technologies and ideas shape the future, the shadows of ancient Rome continue to stretch across time. Its mysteries, its lost histories, continue to be uncovered by modern-day explorers, archaeologists, historians, and scientists who dig beneath the surface, bringing the secrets of Rome back to life. Every artifact found, every letter deciphered, every ruin uncovered is a piece of Rome's shadowy past that once seemed lost forever. And as we piece together these fragments of history, we find that the story of Rome is not one of an empire that simply fell. It is a story of resilience, transformation, and mystery. It is a story that we are still living today. If you found yourself swept up in these stories from the shadows of the past, hit that like button, drop a comment with your favorite hidden detail from Roman history, or tell us whose voice you wish we could hear today. And if you want more untold tales from the ancient world and beyond, don't forget to subscribe, because the past has more secrets and we're just getting started.